What is up, everybody? It is week 9, and the gang is back together. We decided that TK, after me and him just went on a little siesta last week, to join back in. Zach, thank you so much for filling in for us. Guys, how'd y'all do last week?
Good and bad. Some good picks and some bad picks in the Browns-Raiders game. I guess the wind was
going to that. You're there.
I mean, I'm not assuming. I'm assuming field goals are out of question. So I thought, hey, well, they're not going to kick field goals. They're going to be going for fourth downs. They're going to go for 2. I thought the points would stack up, and they
forgot that Baker's Baker.
Yeah, I think the Browns were ready for a bye week, and they kind of looked at that game. Just get off that game. So,
Zach, how about you?
I didn't play Dalvin Cook, DK Metcalf for Dolphins D, so.
Oh, well, that'll do it. Yeah. So I don't even care. I did so bad, but I told everybody in chat after my little mini heater, just fade everything I said. But I did say Dolphins D. Somebody asked for cheap defense. I didn't play them, but it is. It was that type of week. Right? I'm excited for this week. I think that there's a ton of good spots. So let's just get right back into it, gentlemen. TK, lead us off with quarterbacks.
All right, we're starting off with Deshaun Watson, and obviously one of the best matchups of the week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have 4 straight games of over 300 yards passing. Since Bill O'Brien left, this Texans ball club seems to have opened up the offense. The shoulders are a little relaxed in Houston now that there is no expectations. It's just kind of play football, win games, earn your money. So players are going out, they're trying to get their touches, their touchdowns, and it's obvious Watson is starting to get onto a roll. 11 touchdowns and 2 picks in the past 4 games. And, Jacksonville 29th against the pass. So give me Deshaun Watson as a cash lock for me at quarterback.
I love it. You could have just said Deshaun Jackson's versus Jacksonville and been done with it, but
not Deshaun Jackson, not Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Watson.
I need another beer. Deshaun Watson. Do not play Deshaun Jackson. Not only a bye, but maybe permanent bye. Anyhow, Zach, go for it.
All right. So for me, my favorite one is Josh Allen. I'll have to go back and watch, but I'd bet that 50% of my picks have been quarterbacks against Seattle. Simply for the fact that they don't play defense and they score a lot of points. So and it's Russell Wilson's pretty much matchup proof. So it's never you have to worry about it not turning into a shootout. He can score against everybody. So going with Josh Allen, and I think he's going to be pretty popular. And I think a popular stack is going to be with Stephon Diggs. I actually like running it back with Josh Brown, who he was hurt for a while and then finally getting back to healthy. Gonna play. He played 90% of the snaps or something. So really like that stack.
I like it. Smokey Brown, right? John Brown?
Smokey Brown.
Okay. So I'm gonna go on the cheap side. I'm hoping by lock that I don't necessarily have to, but I do think Drew Lock is very in play at 5,200. So really just a price play. I mean, kind of throwback to vintage fantasy football. Remember those days, guys, when we didn't pay up for quarterback? It feels like forever ago. But 5,200. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that's because we're paying $10K for McCaffrey and Dave Johnson back in the day.
I mean, here's the thing. You might not need Lock by the time Lock comes around. But I do think 5,200 versus Atlanta. Denver, here's what's interesting. The last 2 games, 41 and 40 passes. That type of volume, a little bit of athleticism too. I remember watching him at Missouri. I haven't really watched him much as a pro, but do think, there's an ability to scramble a little bit there, even though he hasn't shown it. Look, it's 5,200, guys. If we're going to get 40 passes from a guy versus the Falcons, I think that there's an adequate floor, and, a few of those going to the end zone, we get some ceiling. So I am good playing Drew Lock, but I do prefer both the other guys that you said. All right, running back. TK, are we going back to the C-Mac train?
I'm personally not a big McCaffrey guy, simply because of, usually the price and the salary. But coming off of his long stay, I could see why you would want to fade McCaffrey and thinking the volume might not be there. He doesn't necessarily get a great matchup. But my guy, I'm going to roll this into Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Same game.
I think he gets the better matchup. I think the Chiefs defense is playing a lot better. So C-Mac, volume wise, he could probably get there. But I think upside wise, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the worst team against the run in football. He's coming off of very underperforming weeks and back-to-back weeks with under 10 carries. I think we're going to see with the Kansas City take a step back from this vaunted passing attack they've been trying to pull off in the past 2 weeks. And I think they're going to try to emphasize the run. As we know, Carolina, more of a run funnel defense. And I think Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell could both have good games. And I think the price is fairly decent on Edwards-Helaire at 6,100.
Yeah, and I think that the Bell thing is going to make people potentially very much just overlook Edwards-Helaire. And look, they're still going to have both of them involved. We've seen Kansas City when Reed wants to, he can support 2 running backs too. And I think I didn't look at that snap count, but he's still out snapping Bell significantly, right?
Yeah, Bell's still not getting more than a 25% snap. So
I love that.
I think it's right around 25% snaps, and I think Edwards-Helaire, I think it's going to get more volume in a matchup like this than the past 2 weeks.
I love it. Zach, who you got, my friend?
Okay, I got a guy that I expect to see Christian McCaffrey-like usage this week, and that's Kenyan Drake.
You did it again.
Chase Edmonds.
I did it again. Chase
We'll
Edmonds.
get one of these names right.
Yeah, we're bad today. Chase Edmonds. With no Kenyan Drake, the other running backs on their roster, they have a 7th-round pick and then an undrafted guy. So I don't expect them to really see hardly any time. We saw last year Chase Edmonds have monster games when David Johnson went down. We all saw all preseason. They say how they look at Chase Edmonds as a RB1, and he gets a matchup with the Dolphins, who are an improving team, still get gashed by the run. Haven't seen it recently. Last week they had the Rams, and they ran effectively. Just got down by 3 touchdowns before you could even knew what happened. Then they had like the Jets the week before, who aren't good at anything. So the Dolphins have a good pass rush and 2 really, really good corners. Don't guard the run well at all. And Chase Edmonds is one of those guys that we see. He might have got to 100 pass yards last game. I'm not sure if he did or he's really close. But he catches passes and he's just really, really good. So
I was going to say he's actually like what we've been wanting Kenyan Drake to be like all season.
Exactly.
All of the passing work has been going to Edmonds. So now we get, the positive like run, like Arizona still wants to run the ball. Like Kingsbury very much wants to run the ball. So we get the actual run offense mixed with passing game work. So I think he's going to be super popular. I love the pick. I'm also not going to be talking about Christian McCaffrey. I think he's a fine play, but I can't see passing up Dalvin Cook at 8,200. I'm really surprised. I thought DK like very well could have put him at like 9,500 and made us have a long, long decision after that game. But it's a crisp matchup versus Detroit. We potentially might not have Matt Stafford on Detroit, so the potential of, Minnesota going up early and continuing to run the ball. And look, I just don't think Minnesota thinks Kirk Cousins is any good, so pound the ball to Cook. Let Cousins pad his stats by throwing Cook a screen that he can get like a 55-yard touchdown on, and everybody will be happy. So Dalvin Cook, 8,200, I'm just locking him in, not really even thinking twice about it. I do kind of want to mention this just for you guys. This is homage to you two. I really like David Johnson this week. Talk me out. I've been taking care of you guys for 8 weeks. I really like him.
He's been consistent. He gets like 6 targets a week, catches 4 balls, gets like 40 yards. He's just kind of, his upside's really touchdown dependent, but his floor is there. He can get you 12. Yeah, he gets 12 to 15 on a floor each week, and anytime he can get a touchdown or 2, there's your upside, and he's never over 6K. So it's more of a cash play because his touchdowns aren't guaranteed in that offense with Deshaun Watson being able to run inside the red zone. And, it just always seemed like he would be like the odd man out when it came to getting touches in the red zone. But, yeah, firmly in play at 5,600. I'm all in on the Texans, and I've already planned on a bunch of DJ exposure. So, yeah, definitely was my second pick coming into this. But I didn't want too many Texans.
I want to get one more shot, Zach. And if I caught you off guard with it, sorry in advance. I don't plan these things. I just throw it to these guys. But Justin Jackson, any interest? That's another guy that I had circled.
Ooh. maybe a little interest, more so if Pope was out. Chargers are really like the hot hand team. I think that Josh Kelly is the better running back, but like last week, Jackson led the team in snaps. But
Pope
then like
is doubtful.
Is
Yeah,
he,
he's out.
they've made him
Actually,
doubtful?
he's out. I think I read he's out. That's
Well,
what.
that definitely gives you more, give a lot more upside to Jackson then.
Yeah, and Vegas has been really susceptible to the run, so just thought.
And I'll say I prefer both those guys over DJ Dallas, who I think might end up with ownership, and I don't like to play at all. So
yeah,
I agree.
No, I think that like let Russ cook is a big thing, and especially Buffalo. So I don't know. It might get away from DJ Dallas last week. He doesn't get into the end zone on those. It's a rough week. We talked about
he was terrible.
Yeah, what was it, Derrick Henry, like 2 weeks ago that we kind of talked about it on this, but like he doesn't break that 95-yarder and then he doesn't get the TD in overtime and he doesn't hit value. So sometimes like you really have to take out some of these touchdowns, such an event-driven type of thing, and just go, did he have a good game otherwise? So
Homer's going to be healthy. He wasn't healthy last week, so.
Wish I would have noticed that as I was like, oh, Dallas is going to be chalk. Let me play Homer. All right, let's jump to wide receivers. Sorry to take long. I think running back's loaded, though. So I just want one more piece for me. If you don't play free running backs this week in like a cash/optimal build, I think you gave away equity. Because I don't think there's a ton of guys that like we're going to like falling over ourselves to play in the same pricing tier as running back. Would you all agree with that?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just going to roll that right into wide receiver because when I was going through this list, I couldn't find much other than the guys up at top, like your Seahawks and DeAndre Hopkins, I'd have no problem playing those guys, but, you're going to need to salary save at some point. And with those loaded running back matchups, I found myself looking down in the Chase Claypool range after watching, countless Cowboy games where they're just giving up, rushing TDs to the wide receiver, long passing touchdowns, massive games to these wide receivers. I think every Steeler wide receiver is probably in play. I think Zach's going to get into another guy in the same game. But I think Claypool has a really good his tendencies kind of line up with OBJ. And, like, these are guys that, are good with the ball in their hands, not very long distance. They don't run extremely long routes. I think they can get the ball, get them in space, and they can make plays, get yards after the catch. And I think with some of the worst D-backs in football on that Dallas secondary, I think Claypool could have a big game. We've seen him have the 3 touchdown games before. So I like Claypool as an upside GPP pick this week.
TK throwing a lot of low-owned guys. I've been writing them all down too. I really like it, man. Zach, I think you're going to have more of the chalkier receiver in that game from Steelers. Why don't you talk to us about him?
I'm going Deontay Johnson. Talked him up 2 weeks ago maybe. Last week he's coming off a game with 1 catch for 3 yards. And to go off of TK, I think this is a week. I think both of them – I think you can even play both of them in the same lineup. As I think like Dallas, like last week was a game where with the Steelers in Baltimore – where it's the classic defensive, like really good defenses. So a lot of Juju, a lot of James Conner, because it's a lot of just pounding the football, short yardage plays, like get first downs. Don't worry about that with Dallas, as they give up a ton of big plays. And the 2 big plays on the Steelers offense are Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. So both, and they're pretty much just getting rid of James Washington out of the offense, which is great. You just get those 3 all the time. And I think at least one of them is going to have a long touchdown, and I expect probably 3 touchdowns between the receivers. So anytime I know the first 5 or 6 weeks, every time we came on the videos, stack Dallas, and I think that's a great option again this week.
Stack against Dallas, but yes.
Yes.
So I just want to say this before I get to my pick. Is it not crazy that we just talked about 2 Steeler wide receivers and neither one of them was Juju? Like, would you have expected for the season?
It's a weird role he has.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. I mean, especially with Ben back. I thought that Juju would be back to, what was it, like 2 years ago? He was like a top 10 pick season long.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyhow, and his former running mate just found his way to Tampa with my guys. But anyhow, I'm just going to actually just touch on 2 guys that I like at the top end. So first off, Julio Jones, if we see no Ridley, I just think he's almost like you just lock it in. Just think it's always funny. And I still have this bias. I see Denver, and I still think of like Super Bowl winning Denver defense. Like you don't want to play against them. They're slow. Like this is not that Denver anymore. So especially in the dome, have no problem going to Julio. And then for just if Ridley's back, what Keenan Allen did, he must have like I don't know what he's given to Justin Herbert except for just an easy target, but Herbert just is locked in on him like 12, 13 times a game. So on a PPR format like DraftKings, like yeah, it sucks that we might not get the 100-yard bonus with Keenan Allen, but just lock me a 4 or 15 DK in cash and let me move on with it. I'm cool. Like if I get a touchdown or I get a bonus, fantastic. If not, I mean, it's hard to see an outcome where Keenan Allen doesn't give you 15 DK at this point.
I would have to agree. I love that game from a game stack standpoint. Just to touch on that real quick, Vegas, I think a lot of people are seeing that game last week in Cleveland, and they might not think it's a game I can go to and stack. Raiders defense might be good. It's not the case. As Zach was talking about with Justin Jackson, the Raiders defense loves to give up big plays to the running back. So I'm kind of that's going to be my big game stack of the week. That and probably this Jacksonville Texans game.
And here's the thing we've seen with the Chargers, like they just keep playing shootouts.
Yeah,
so,
it's 30 every game. They're like the Browns. They're like the Browns of the West.
Well, except for when there's snow and wind.
Yeah, and the Browns can win sometimes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I think wide receiver we got to use some good picks. Let's go to tight end. TK, why don't you bring us back to Jacksonville for more Texan fun?
Yeah, more Texans. Akins is making his way back to the lineup this week. I think we saw Darren Fells do his thing for the last couple of weeks, and it's obvious that Deshaun Watson does throw to these tight ends. Akins is more of the receiving tight end, more of the big play yards after catch guy for the Texans. And Jacksonville, just a terrible defense. Like I had mentioned, Akins first came back after missing 4 games. He's going to go under the radar. As you can see, with my theme of the week is play my stud QB and find myself in different ownerships elsewhere. And Akins going to be a big part of them game stacks, along with Cooks and Will Fuller, potentially a fade. I'm not sure what's going on with his standpoint with the team after requesting trade and looking to be traded at the deadline, but not moving.
Yeah, and I don't remember who. I think I saw it from multiple people, but the laugh of the week was the Packers after drafting quarterback and running back, deciding that they didn't want to give up any draft capital to give one of the greatest of all time another receiver. I'm just like, okay,
yeah. But then Valdez Scantling catches 2 touchdowns and Darren Rodgers throws 4 TDs. So they just know.
I'll tell you, after watching bits of that game, Devontae Adams is just out of this world, man.
He's so good.
Him and Thomas are a tier above everybody else. Maybe Hopkins is in that tier.
There's some good ones. All right. Why don't you give us – Zach talks about this guy so much that he's going to try to elevate him to Devontae Adams territory. Why don't you talk about that tight end, Zach?
All right, I'm going Noah Fant. Former first-round pick. His receiving ability is like another level from most tight ends in the NFL. And then he gets the matchup against the Falcons, who are the worst team against tight ends in the league. So I expect the Broncos to come out and try to run the ball. And everyone thinks that Atlanta has a bad run defense because, especially for fantasy, because they give up catches to running backs, but they don't give up rushing yards. So I expect that to turn into a throwing match quick. And Noah Fant, it's Noah Fant and Jerry Jeudy. That's all they have at receiver. That's so they're really bad there. I expect both of them to have good games actually, but I expect Fant to probably be the chalk with the tight ends. But he's one of those guys, one of the only tight ends that has like actual like big play upside, as we've seen him score 85-yard touchdowns before. And he's finally healthy. He has like 20 targets over the last 2. I just think it's a total blow-up spot here.
Yeah, I love him. I told you when you said that you were going to pick him, I'm like, well, we have a little overlap, but I still actually really like – it's actually funny. Evan Ingram and Noah Fant are actually like very similar in a lot of ways. Like, a little too big, to be wide receivers. They're cast as tight ends, but they're not there to block. They're there to receive. In Evan Ingram's case, the only way he can get in the end zone is to take a handoff or a but
That's so weird.
got to watch the whole game. Evan Ingram is just a huge target for Daniel Jones, especially now that Golden Tate is just gone. He's getting a lot of those low A-dot throws that – look, Washington's pass rush is elite. So what do we know when there's an elite pass rush? Do a lot more dumping off. So I think that Ingram gets a lot of those, short drag routes, and he is athletic enough to do something with it. So I think if you don't have enough money for Fant, I think Ingram's like 500 less. I don't think you're giving up a ton going down to Evan Ingram. I think that's another play. And then I think Hunter Henry just below him will be fairly popular too, especially if you want to stack that game up. I mean, there's some good dang stacks in that Raiders Chargers game.
Sure.
I'm going to go to the Steeler guy, Zach, and we're going to end on this stuff. We're not going to do any confidence picks or GPP picks. I want to do 2 defense things I'm going to ask each of you guys. Zach, 4,900 record for the Steelers versus I don't know who the Cowboys quarterback is. That's the name of the quarterback.
I don't think they know, do they? Did they announce yet?
Julio Jones?
It might be Gilbert. It might be the Italian.
That's what I saw too. I didn't know.
I think I saw it's the Zeke's name, but 4,900, is that too much, Zach?
For cash, yes. For GPP, I would not be surprised at all if they got into the winning lineup, especially if there's say Stafford gets ruled out. I think that Vikings obviously have a chance to get there. I think that there's some decent cheap ones, but depending on injury news, I think that they're probably locked for double-digit points and have 2 defensive touchdown upsides. So for a GPP, I could see it, but I can't see paying that for cash.
So I think this too. Enough people might be scared off that they're not that owned. So
exactly.
It's one of those little fun things though that we start saying this, and enough people go they're not going to be high owned that they become high owned. So it's tough.
They're going to be 12 to 15% at least.
I think that's about right.
I bet they're higher owned and higher dollar than low.
Enough people trying to be contrarian that you get over contrarian.
Yep.
So I want to go to TK for the last defense pick. So if Matt Stafford is out, can the Vikings score more than 3 DK?
That's a stretch. This team can't rush the passer, and if you look, they can't get turnovers either. I think Detroit, if Stafford does sit, it's going to be a lot of handing the ball off to Adrian Peterson. It's going to be short dink and dunks to Swift and maybe Amendola. So I'm kind of out on the chalk Vikings defense. I just don't see enough sacks and turnovers, and that's what we're going for in DFS defenses. And my pick would probably be the Washington Redskins, who do rush the passer a lot. Danny Fumbles does have no thumbs, so I'm going with the Washington defense over the Vikings.
So on our core sheet, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago? I always fill in everybody's scores, and it was I put WFT. And
WFT.
Everybody was like, did you misspell WTF? I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's what I first read it at. It's like what the F defenses.
The last bonus question, because you opened it up, I didn't even think about it. And I'm going to go to Zach for this, and we'll end on this. Zach, if Adrian Peterson's going to get on a ton of carries, revenge never dies. Could he show up? One last slap in the Vikings' face.
I'm not doing it.
He's only 4K. I think he's definitely in play.
I mean, revenge play, $3 play action. TK, come on.
All right. If I had, I do 20 lineups every week, maybe one.
I didn't even think of it until you were like the Lions versus the Vikings. I'm like, oh dear God, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
and they don't stop the run either.
No.
Yeah. So
I could totally see a 1-yard AP touchdown and 20 carries on 40 yards.
Yeah, I was gonna say 20 carries, 32 yards, 3 touchdowns. Can't
no.
Is that Jordan Howard's stat line or Adrian Peterson?
Right? And on that note, we are gonna wrap up. Guys, thank you all so much. For Tim, for Zach, Keith, see ya. Bye.